All right. So
Doing it.
We're doing it. We're just going to dive right in. There's so much to talk about. So thank you all so much for showing up with us today. I'm Sierra and this is Molly, and we are the co-founders of Cultivate Balance, and we are both clinical Ayurvedic practitioners, and we work out of Boulder, Colorado, but we are able to see clients virtually as well. So we really like to extend our reach as far as we can, and really committed to making Ayurveda accessible. So we're so happy that you could be here with us tonight to start to learn about this powerful wisdom.
Or build on learning that you already have.
Yes. So we're going to take about 60 minutes together. And during that time, we're going to give you an overview, just like a very, very brief history of Ayurveda. We're going to talk about the gunas, which are the qualities that make up our world. We're going to talk about the doshas, which you may have heard before. We're going to talk about Prakruti, which is your inherent constitution. Agni, which is your digestion. And then we're going to get into a little bit of nutrition and how to cook and eat Ayurvedically. We'll give you some tips on exercise, and then we're going to kind of put it all together at the end and just give you some tips for a simple daily routine that'll really help you integrate the lifestyle that is Ayurveda.
Yes. Okay, so Ayurveda, as you may know, is a full spectrum system of healing. There are many components to it. And it's really special because it emphasizes preventative medicine and customizes wellness techniques to the individual's unique constitution, to your unique needs, which is really, really unique for Ayurveda to be able to offer that, because not all healing modalities attune to the individual so nicely. And the treatment focuses on diet, daily routine, seasonal routines, herbal remedies, oils, yoga, body work, meditation, and other subtle therapies. So when we say full spectrum healing, we're referring to all of those components which come together to make up an Ayurvedic lifestyle. You can also think of Ayurveda as the art of daily living. There's a lot of opportunity for ritual and beauty and appreciation that sort of weaves its way in as an artful way to be in the world, which we love. And it's really an opportunity to empower yourself, to know yourself more deeply, to understand how to meet your own needs, and also to make small shifts to bring yourself back into balance based on the understanding of those needs and of your unique constitution.
All about those small shifts.
That's right.
So the word Ayurveda is actually translated as the science of life, and it's like the wisdom to live well. Ayur means life, and Veda means knowledge or truth. And this is used to describe this vast body of healing, holistic healing wisdom that comes from India. And one of the coolest things about Ayurveda is that it was actually channeled through the rishis, through meditation. They were accessing it from the universal consciousness, which is called Brahman. And this was happening around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago in India.
Dang.
And this photo was actually taken at that time. So, and
she's never made that joke before.
Yeah, so it was channeled through meditation, which is a really, really powerful, it comes, directly from the source. And it was slowly but surely, actually around 2,000 years ago, started to actually be written down. And then it was written down into some books, one of which was called the Charaka Samhita, which we've referenced a lot in our training. And then actually when the British colonial rule came into India, they prohibited Ayurveda for several decades. And so Ayurveda sort of went underground and was practiced only among families, and it was really quiet. But then when India regained its independence in 1947 is when there was sort of a resurgence of Ayurveda. And then as sort of Western yogis traveled over to India in search of something greater and, more deeply connective, they discovered Ayurveda, and it has since been making its way over to the West, sort of in the latter half of the 20th century. Yeah.
And you can really see how Ayurveda is this holistic science when we're talking about these teachings that we have read come from someone's meditation practice. Like it's that there really is this like special connection to spirit and meditation, and it's not just a body wellness, it's like mind, body, and soul, and it's so comprehensive because of that. It really works because of all those components, which I love.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And what's really cool is that this wisdom that they channeled was as applicable now as it was when it was first written down or first accessed. So
maybe more applicable.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of people are sick.
A lot of people need it. So yeah.
Okay, so as I already mentioned, Ayurveda is really about an understanding of the individual, helping the individual better understand themselves also. And it's also about aligning with the rhythmic and elemental influences of the earth. So when we talk about building a daily routine, we're talking about aligning your lifestyle with the sun and the moon. And we also talk about seasonal routines. So that's sort of where the elements come into play. We also will describe everyone's constitution in terms of the elements. So as you can see, Ayurveda is very connected to the natural world. And it's really about reconnecting with the natural world, and in our case, in a more modern setting. And it's also the idea that if we can cultivate more balance within our bodies and lives, we can actually live our highest expression of ourselves, and in how we show up in work, in our families, in the whole world. If we feel better in our bodies, we can do better in the world. That's really a value that we have sort of adopted and cultivated out of our own learning and our own backgrounds in Ayurveda. And something that's so interesting about all of this idea of understanding your constitution to return back to balance is that your body will naturally crave what it needs to be in balance and to feel good. And we want to use the tools of Ayurveda to help you learn to listen to your body again, basically, so that you can tune in to what your body's craving and what it's asking for, and understand really when to follow those cravings and why they're happening.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to dive now into the philosophy and actually sort of the building blocks of Ayurveda. And so many of you have probably already heard about the doshas. This is a term that gets thrown around. We're going to actually take it even deeper, or break it down even smaller. We're going to talk about something called the gunas. And the guna is the Sanskrit word for quality or qualities. And it's basically this idea that everything in the world, from, the universal manifestation to out, the room that you're in right now, to your body, to even experiences and emotions, can be defined in terms of qualities. These qualities, so take a minute to just sort of think about it. Like, you might be sitting on something that's soft, the table that your computer on is hard, the food you ate tonight was hot, it was cold outside. Like, these are all the qualities that are making up our world, right? And so everything can be described in terms of these qualities, and they're actually set up in pairs of opposites. So we're going to get into those in just a second, but the foundational principle of Ayurveda is healing by applying the opposite qualities to any condition that's happening in your life. So we'll get into that. But first, just start to think about what qualities are in and around you.
And this is like the juice of Ayurveda. The understanding the qualities in their simplest terms is everything that you need to then apply Ayurveda to your own life. So if you haven't heard people talk about the doshas in terms of the gunas, I think this will really help deepen your understanding and your own application.
Yep.
So as Sierra mentioned, they come in pairs of opposites, and this will come into play when we start to talk about how to balance your experience if you're having an imbalance. We look at the qualities, we look at the opposite qualities. So let's just go through them right now. Heavy and light, dull or slow moving and sharp, cold and hot, oily and dry, smooth or slimy and rough, dense or liquid, soft or hard, stable or static and mobile, subtle and gross or tangible, and clear or cloudy and sticky. And these are direct translations from Sanskrit from thousands of years ago. So if you're like, I don't describe things as that, slimy, just like you get the idea. And these are the simplest terms that the Ayurvedic rishis were able to put it into, and they really still work.
Apply. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can think a little bit about how those apply to, for example, food. You might think of a raw salad. You're going to see that it's light, cold, rough, and sort of hard. If you think about like a crunchy, raw vegetable, whereas soup would be heavy, hot, oily, smooth, soft. So those are two different foods with opposite qualities. Ice cream is cold, heavy, dense, oily, and smooth, whereas roasted chilies or like a red hot blue chip is going to be light, sharp, hot, hard.
And so you'll see that not only can we apply the qualities to our foods to help us balance, but we also apply the qualities to our experience, which Sierra mentioned a few minutes ago. So you can think about nature, what's happening around us in the rhythms and the elements of nature. Melting snow would have the qualities of heavy, cold, and liquid. And we're impacted by our surroundings, right? So our experience changes when the seasons change because we're impacted by that. The wind is light, cold, rough, subtle, and dry, mobile also. And then we can also think about activities. So things that you would engage in, the qualities of those. So going for a jog would be light and mobile and rough. Sitting and watching TV might be static and dull and heavy and slow. And none of the qualities are bad. We'll get into this. It's all about balancing them.
Yeah.
So just know that none of them are bad. Sometimes you might need more static, dull moments in your life to balance out very sharp and active moments. And that's okay too.
Yeah. So what you've sort of got, you hear us alluding to is this idea that the opposite qualities are what bring you back into balance. And so because every experience that you're having has its associated qualities, if you have a condition, you want to look at what qualities it has and then apply the opposite qualities to bring you back into balance. And that is the foundational principle in the healing of Ayurveda. And so you see that you have the gunas are already broken down into their opposites for you. So it makes it really simple to just know what the opposite quality is. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that like increases like. So while opposites decrease one another, like will increase like. So if you keep adding more of the same quality, you're gonna sort of have that positive feedback loop that's gonna continue to spiral the condition that you're having.
To increase the imbalance.
Yeah. So for example, if you've ever felt depression is described Ayurvedically as heavy and static and sort of cold and slow
and dull.
Right. So you can think about how that experience manifests like that. So if you were to feel depressed and then eat some ice cream, which is also heavy and cold and dull, you're going to actually ultimately maybe feel better for 1 second, and then you're gonna and then maybe if it's chocolate, I don't know. Then you're gonna it's going to sort of spiral it. It's gonna deepen that imbalance because you're adding more of the same qualities. Whereas
increase your experience of depression.
Right. Whereas if you felt depressed with all those qualities and you chose to instead get up and go on a quick jog
or a brisk walk.
Yep. It's going to be light and mobile and, warmer. So that's going to balance out the depression and actually make you feel better. So that's just a quick understanding of how that works.
Sometimes in the moment, it might seem hard to just do the thing that you know is balancing, but you'll find, and I'm sure you have found this, that when you do just go for a brisk walk, when you're not feeling like you're most bright and shiny, that you actually feel better a lot more quickly than if you didn't do it. And that is the magic of Ayurveda, is being able to just keep checking in with yourself and keep keeping yourself more in balance, or narrowing that experience of swinging very far out.
Yes. Yeah.
So then this, just thinking about the steps of how you would understand the qualities of your experience and apply opposite qualities. First, you would just sort of like the examples here I gave, you would identify the qualities of an experience you're having. So say you're feeling congested, which is actually similar qualities to the example we just gave, but we'll go with it. So if you're feeling congested, and that is the qualities of like slimy and cloudy and heavy, then you identify those factors and you're like, oh, which factors share those qualities? It's the congestion. Okay, I pinpointed that it's the congestion. Great. And then you go back to the qualities and think, okay, what are the opposite qualities that are going to balance the qualities that I'm experiencing from this congestion? Probably things that are hot and sharp and quick, like maybe like a spicy soup, or again, a brisk walk,
ginger tea,
hot yoga.
Yeah.
So just remember, like increases like, and opposites balance one another.
That's it. That's the foundation. Okay, so now let's get into doshas, which some of you have probably heard of, these Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So the doshas also embody the gunas. Each dosha is actually a pair of elements. And Molly's going to tell you what elements make up which doshas in just a second. But the elements that make up our world are ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. And the doshas are essentially functional principles that are made up of these elements. Functional principle meaning they help govern how the mechanics of the universe, body, and mind work. So they're a really powerful tool for just viewing the world, and sort of simplifies the qualities down into these three functional principles,
like categories. Of being.
Right. And so what you want to keep in mind with each dosha is that the dosha will share the qualities of the elements that make it up. So keep that in mind as Molly shares with you which elements make up each dosha.
And maybe you already know, how many of you have like learned about the doshas a little bit? Maybe type it into the chat if you have.
Or maybe you already know how the doshas how the doshas are manifested in you, which of course we'll get into. But everything in the world is made up of these doshas, including you. So
that's right. Okay, so Vata dosha, someone's heard of it, is made up of air and space. So those like lightest. Oh, great. Welcome. We're so glad that we're talking about it. So Sophie, if more questions come up as we're explaining these new concepts, please ask them, because that's what we're here for. So Vata dosha is air and space. So like the lightest elements. And then Pitta is more in the center. It's primarily, think of it as fire, but there is a little bit of water component to Pitta. And Kapha is earth, the earth and water elements. So a little more dense and sturdy in that way. So we're going to talk about them in detail now.
Okay, so Vata. Vata is like the wind. You can think of it like the wind. It embodies the energy of movement, and it's said to manifest within ourselves and within the world with the qualities of cold, light, rough, mobile, clear, dry, and subtle. And so the opposite qualities of Vata are hot, oily, heavy, smooth, static, cloudy, and gross, or that tangible that we had mentioned. The root Va means vehicle, because Vata embodies the energy of movement. It moves everything around your body. It also governs your nervous system. It is responsible for your breath, your heartbeat, your elimination, and any activity that's happening in your colon. And within your mind, Vata manifests as creativity, clarity, communication, joy, adaptability, and inspiration. So alertness, like all doshas, is really, really important to our experience.
And something that we'll talk about a bit later, but I'll just say now, is that we all have all the doshas within us. It's just usually one expresses more, but it's not to say that if you're not a Vata type person that you don't experience creativity, because we all have it, just in different ratios. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look at yours. Okay, so Pitta is the energy of transformation. It is, so that includes like digestion and metabolism, and also like our mental processing, transforming thought and experience and emotion within our minds is what Pitta is responsible for. So it's like the fire. It's like fire, which would transform like wood into fuel. And it embodies the qualities of hot, sharp, light, liquid, but like liquid like lava, mobile and oily. And that means it's balanced by the qualities of cold, slow, heavy, and dense. And let's see, the word top, so the ta part of pitta, means heat. Pretty simple. As I mentioned, pitta governs both digestion of food and experience, so that mental, emotional, like discernment component, as well as our metabolism, our cellular metabolism, and it takes care of your vision, your blood, temperature regulation, and activity of the small intestine within the body. And then within the mind, it's responsible for discernment, willpower, courage, determination, passion, focus, and organization. And that is what I will say about that.
Pitta. Okay, so kapha. So if you have vata, which is like the wind, and you have pitta, which is like fire, kapha is like a rich soil. So it embodies the energy of lubrication and structure, and it is said to manifest within ourselves and within the world with the qualities of heavy, slow, cold, oily, smooth or slimy, static, cloudy, and tangible. And so the opposite qualities are light, sharp, hot, dry, rough, mobile, clear, and subtle. And kapha is really important because it's about holding structure. It's about lubrication. It's sort of like the combination of mud, soil, and rock, which, are going to be the container for a body of water. The root word ka means water and fa means flourish. So it refers to the flowing and abundant components of kapha. In your body, it governs the lymphatic system, and it's responsible for immunity, bone structure, strength, lubrication, endurance, mucous membranes, activity of the stomach, and activity of the lungs. So a lot of those places where mucus is really important, kapha's there, holding it down. It's true, literally. In your mind, kapha is responsible for love, patience, inclusivity, groundedness, stability, calmness, forgiveness, and long-term memory. So it's a little bit more of that slow moving, just like holding energy, which is a really important vibe.
That's true.
So the more that you understand how the doshas manifest within you and around you, the deeper appreciation you can have for yourself to begin with. And also this is the way that you can understand how to continuously return back to balance.
And just to speak to that idea of having more appreciation for yourself, I know that I found that for myself, it was really helpful to understand that I have a lot of kapha dosha, and to be able to know sort of what tendencies might come up, and that's okay. Rather than comparing myself with someone who has a very different constitution, understanding what my constitution is and sort of what that means for me has been really helpful for just appreciating myself, and also really being able to see the good qualities of what it means to be my unique ratio of doshas. Incredibly transformative for my whole experience of myself. And you can think of that also in terms of just like appreciating other people around you, and sort of understanding rather than comparing, just like understanding what is allowing someone to have a particular skill in a particular way, like lots of creativity or lots of drive. You can think of that in terms of what doshas are most dominant for them, and celebrate that for them. It's very cool.
Yes. Right. So as we've said, everyone embodies all three of the doshas, but we all usually have one and sometimes two that are really the stronger doshas in the constitution. Interestingly, your inherent constitution is determined at the time of your conception. So not even the time you were born, but the time that you were conceived. And this inherent constitution, which is called Prakruti in Sanskrit, it's completely different for everyone. It's been sort of simplified where we can use just like percentages so we can kind of talk about it, but it's literally, you're as different as a snowflake from anyone else in the world.
Very special. Very special.
And this unique ratio, it doesn't change throughout your life, and it actually informs an incredible amount about you. So it's going to inform how your body looks and functions, how your mind engages with the world, and even like what types of activities you're drawn to. So certain careers or hobbies that you might be drawn to are all really determined by this prakriti or inherent constitution. So, and knowing this is really, really important for, as Molly was saying, loving yourself more, and then also unlocking your deepest wellness. Because when you know how to engage specifically with your inherent constitution and your dominant dosha, you are going to be able to take such better care of yourself
and really prevent imbalance.
And be able to also filter things that come your way in terms of like, you know, health fads or different sort of trends. You'll be like, oh, I see why that would be good for this type of person, but probably not for me. Or
it really will give you a lens to look at the world and understand what is the best way to relate. Like paleo, vegan, whatever, once you know the qualities of an experience and the qualities that your body most needs, it'll be easy to sort of decipher what works for you, which is very helpful because there's so many wellness trends and things thrown out at us every day. And Ayurveda will really give you a lens to sort of hone in on what you need.
And so you might be wondering, how can I find out what my inherent constitution is? So on our website, you can go check out the mind body quiz, and we will email this out to you afterwards. But otherwise you can scroll down to the footer of our website, and you'll see where it says quizzes, and you can select the mind body quiz. You'll just go through a few questions there that if you can answer from the perspective of your entire life, not your most recent experience, but even thinking of yourself in your childhood. It's going to be a really powerful tool for understanding how the doshas are organized within your body. And you'll be able to start to move forward from there with in that very informed place.
Has anyone taken a mind body quiz before? Any idea about how the doshas are manifesting in you? Tell us, type it in there if you want. We're going to keep going, but it's helpful to know sort of where everyone's coming from. Oh, great. We'll send it out, April. Don't worry. Okay. So if you are a person who has a higher amount, highest ratio of Vata in your constitution, you're likely to have a body frame that is more thin and light, and flexible, with larger teeth, slightly smaller eyes, and hair, skin, and nails that's on the drier side. Your mind will tend to be a little more easily distracted, very alert, quick to act, imaginative, and really inclined toward change. And you probably find that you prefer climates that are warm and humid because that feels really balancing for a Vata dosha.
Okay, so again, you think of Vata like the wind, right? You think of the qualities of Vata being light and mobile and cold and quick. And so what are the tendencies that might show up if those are the qualities of Vata? You might have a big experience of gas, bloating, constipation, because it's associated with that dryness, joint pain, also associated with dryness. And in the mind, you might be more prone to anxiety, fear, restlessness, insomnia. And these are tendencies that people who have a high percentage of Vata in their constitution might have a higher propensity to experience. But also if anyone is exposed to things that have the qualities of Vata, weather, Vata food, anything like
in
that.
In
excess, you might start to see some of these things show up. So this isn't just Vata people alone. It's anyone. It's just that Vata people can experience these more because they already have the qualities of Vata in their body.
And Vata is responsible for this imbalance in anyone. So you would treat it as if you're balancing Vata, even if you are a Vata type person, which is a whole thing, but really interesting. Going to talk about the climate. Did you say that?
Oh yeah. So the most challenging climate would be excessively windy or cold.
I have some Vatas in my life who, when it's really windy, they hate it. Like they don't want to go outside, and it doesn't bother me in that way. And it really makes me think of the doshas, because I'm like, oh, this is probably a Vata person, that they're more bothered by an increase in those Vata qualities.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about ways to care for Vata, especially if you're a Vata type person. If you have more Vata in your constitution, you really want to commit to a regular routine, daily and ideally weekly. Consistency helps sort of balance out the qualities of Vata that are like very active and mobile, and it gives sort of structure and stability that feels especially good to a Vata soul. And another thing that you can do to support Vata is to eat food that is well cooked and well spiced. So salt and pepper, but also like cumin, coriander, fennel, cinnamon, putting spices on your food will help sort of warm it up, which is balancing to Vata, and support digestion, which is very important for all of us, and especially Vata. And with that, you really want to avoid foods that have too much of the qualities of cold, light, dry, and rough, which would mean like raw food and raw salad is especially challenging for people with a lot of Vata, because it increases those Vata qualities and can lead to the Vata imbalances like gas and bloating, which we mentioned on the slide before. Another thing that you can try is massaging the soles of your feet with oil, ideally sesame oil, before bed each night. That will really help ground the energy of Vata and calm the mind, the whole nervous system, actually, to lead you into a better night's sleep. And also, if you think of the qualities of oil, it's the opposite qualities of the wind, of Vata. So it's heavy and grounding and slow, and that will really help sort of soothe your body into a good night's rest.
Did we burst any salad bubbles out there yet?
Oh, yeah.
Because if we didn't this time, we probably will a little bit.
It's hard to hear.
Okay, so let's talk about Pitta. So again, Pitta is the fire element, of fire and water. And as a Pitta, if you're a Pitta dominant person, you are probably someone who has an athletic build. You likely have a little bit more sensitive skin, especially sensitivity to the sun. You probably have very penetrating or sharp eyes, right? Sharp is a quality of Pitta. Oily hair, skin, and nails, because one of the qualities of Pitta is oily. And Pitta people tend to be very focused, organized, disciplined, and passionate. These are people who start businesses, and maybe it could be described as hot-headed sometimes, or it has a certain intensity to it that also gets things done. And Pittas tend to feel the best in a cool and dry climate.
All right. So people with higher amounts of Pitta are more likely to experience Pitta type challenges, which in the body can show up as rashes, diarrhea, inflammation, heartburn, right? Like things that you associate with being sort of hot in the body are because of excess Pitta. In the mind, too much Pitta can show up as anger, irritability, impatience, judgment. You might know, like, people who get really angry when they're hungry, that's usually a Pitta type person. Hanger is a Pitta thing. And the challenging climate for them is excessive heat, or like being in direct sunlight for too long. And then you'll notice that these imbalances can pop up. So a Pitta type person might get a rash from being in the sun for too long. They might get irritable from being in the sun for too long.
Yep. Okay, so how can you care for your Pitta, or if you are a high Pitta person, what are some really important things that you can keep in mind as you live your life? One is to limit the amount of spicy and salty tastes you consume. These are two of the most heating tastes. There's 6 tastes in Ayurveda, and we'll share with you at the end about how you can learn more about those. But the spicy and salty tastes are actually the most heating tastes. And so you want to kind of be aware of how much of those you're consuming. Also avoiding the direct heat of sunlight, just as Molly said, because that can trigger irritability or rashes, especially if you're in the sun for an extended period of time. And one of Pitta's saviors is rose water. Rose water is a very, very cooling substance because rose is actually a refrigerant. So if you spritz rose on any time of day when you're hot, it's going to be so cooling and so soothing, nice. And it's just Pitta's best friend.
It's Pitta's best friend, and during the Pitta season, which is summer, it's everyone's best friend. Try it out. Yep, put it in your bag. Okay, so let's see. If you are a person with highest amount of kapha, like I am, then you'll notice that your body tends to be more strong and sturdy and even curvy. Often kaphas have larger eyes and thick hair, skin, and nails. In the mind or in their emotional body, they're more loyal and forgiving and calm and steady and generous. And their preferred climate is warm and dry. For example, I live to be in the desert.
She does. It's true.
I do. Trying to retire. It's true.
Okay. So kapha, it's that rich, earthy soil, right? But that also means it's a bit heavy. So how does that manifest as a condition that might show up for someone? So kapha people might have a tendency toward lethargy, heaviness in the body, nausea, and sinus congestion. So anything sort of mucousy is going to show up in the body as kapha. And then in the mind, you might experience more depression. We talked about that before. Greed is interestingly a mental thing with kapha, cloudiness, and emotional repression. And the hardest climate for kapha is going to be excessive cold or damp. Again, just like that heavy weighing down on you.
And I just want to speak to kapha tendencies in my own experience. Again, growing up, I had a lot of sinus congestion. Like as a kid, I got sinus infections all the time because I didn't understand my constitution and I didn't understand what to do about it. And as I've gotten older and understood Ayurveda, I don't experience congestion anymore. And that is totally possible for all of us to look at the tendencies of our doshic imbalance and just work them out with preventative wellness. And it's been super empowering for me. Next thing. Yeah. So to care for kapha, get moving. More vigorous exercise like jogging or cycling or dance can really help keep kapha in balance, so that you don't experience that heaviness and lethargy that can come up. And also limiting the amount of dairy in your diet will really help support kapha because dairy shares the same qualities of kapha dosha. And when I started having less dairy, I stopped having congestion. So just something to think about. I didn't cut it out entirely, but I don't have it as much as I would have otherwise. And that really works for me.
Awareness.
And lastly, adding plenty of spices to your food, like cumin and black pepper, and maybe even a little cayenne, like things that will really heat your food up to make it lighter and more digestible.
Yeah. I realize, I don't know if we told you all, but if you're here with us live today, we are going to send you a guide to each one of the doshas that's going to lay out all of what we've just shared with you in a really beautiful just PDF. So you'll be able to go back and reference all of this. If you were scribbling ferociously, then that's great for your brain too, but you'll have it all organized as well. So we'll send that to you
welcome.
if you
also, Brittany, I see that you took our dosha quiz. Love that. Want to chat with you about it sometime.
Okay, so now we're going to dive into, we're going to kind of let the doshas go for a second. We're going to talk about Agni.
We never really let them go.
No.
They're there.
They're always there. But this is another foundational principle of Ayurveda, and that is Agni, or the power of digestive fire. So basically, Ayurveda has known for millennia what sort of Western medicine and science is just starting to catch up to, which is that the foundation, the very core of our wellness lies in our gut. And a lot of it has to do with how well your digestive fire is functioning. And it's actually, in Ayurveda, it's called Agni because it's named after the god of fire. And the Agni in your body is used to transform anything that you take into your body into what supports your thriving existence. So that is food, and it's also emotional experiences. So it's like Molly mentioned before, the Agni, there's actually lots of different types of Agni in the body. They're all basically, it's a Pitta energy actually. It's transforming. And when Agni is healthy, it really helps ensure that disease cannot manifest because toxins can't build up. Right. It is when Agni isn't functioning that toxins are able to build up in your body and actually form the foundation of all sorts of diseases, or so many of the conditions that people are experiencing now. And it's really important to just check in with yourself and listen to how does your digestive fire feel? How does your digestion feel? And interestingly, a lot of people think that some of the experiences they're having are normal, but actually you don't have to be experiencing pain after you eat, or gas or constipation or heartburn, or, you know, some of these things that people are living with day in and day out, just thinking, oh, this is a normal part of the experience. And it really doesn't have to be.
It just doesn't have to be like that. And we're going to go through a whole checklist so you understand what is possible to really put that in perspective. But it's so true. Like, healthy digestion will change your whole life.
Yeah. And Ayurveda, this is like one of Ayurveda's best tricks. It's really, it's something that Ayurveda does really well.
It's just like these small things that you do and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm not bloated
what a difference
anymore.
It makes.
Yeah. We're getting there. So the functions of Agni, your digestive fire, is to transform food into energy. Also digestion, absorption, and assimilation, and to nourish your bodily tissues. And so you can see how if your digestion isn't performing well, your body, your tissues, your physical being is getting less nourishment. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel less energized. You're going to feel less sharp and clear in your mind if your body isn't properly using up that food and distributing it appropriately. And that is what Agni is for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so as Molly mentioned, this is a little checklist that goes through what is optimal digestion actually look and feel like, because so many people don't actually even know what's possible. And so you can think for yourself. I know when my Agni is healthy when I am hungry for 3 meals each day, especially for breakfast. So if it takes you forever to get hungry for breakfast, or you're someone who says, I don't eat breakfast, I'm not hungry for it, I don't get hungry till 3 p.m., that is not a sign of good digestion. My stomach does not feel full for longer than 30 minutes after eating. So how long does your food sit in your belly before you feel like it's not so full? Mm-hmm. As my food digests, I feel no gas, bloating, acidity, nausea, etc. So no discomfort as you're digesting. You don't have to. I feel a pleasant anticipation for my next meal approximately 4 to 5 hours after my last meal. And that might mean like a quick little snack in there somewhere. 4 to 5 hours is, maybe a quick snack, but you're not, it makes sense. I have a bowel movement at the same time every day, and it is usually well formed yet soft. So not little pebbles and not diarrhea.
Possible for you.
Fine. Yep.
Consistency.
Yeah. I have no white, yellow, or brown coating on my tongue. So if you ever look in the mirror and you see that you have a white coating on your tongue, or any color coating other than just like a nice wet pink, then that is a sign that your digestion is a little bit off. Mm-hmm. And I sleep soundly at night and wake up in the morning with enthusiasm. So as opposed to sort of super groggy and heavy, that would be a sign of imbalance.
And that also speaks to how your digestive system affects your mood. Like if you wake up feeling excited about the day, that's part of having good digestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So cool.
So cool.
So let's talk about guidelines for establishing healthy digestion. So all of these things are going to help your body just get right back on track so that you can experience all of the things listed in the previous slide. So for comfortable and consistent digestion, enjoy food at room temperature or above. This is just going to make it so much more easily processed by your body. It just takes less energy. It's more in line with the qualities of Agni, so it keeps it going really good. Establish regular meal times. It's good for your body to understand, sort of get into a routine of knowing when food is coming, and that way it can sort of prepare the right digestive juices and just get into a routine that way. Let lunch be your biggest meal of the day, and have that be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. When the sun is highest in the sky, digestive fire is strongest, so that's the time to eat your largest meal. Allow 2 to 3 hours in between all meals and snacks. This way, whatever you've eaten first will have time to fully digest and break down before you add something else. And that way, that second thing, that snack or next meal, can be really efficiently processed and not weighed down or stopped because there's another digestive process happening already. And sit down and relax to eat. No eating while driving and standing and cleaning up the kitchen and like talking on the phone. Just like really sit and be present with your food to signal to your body that you are eating and digesting, rather than sending energy to your legs to be walking. It really will help send energy to the digestive organs to do their job most effectively. Avoid hydrating during meals. So I just mean like, don't drink a lot of water during a meal. You can sip on something, ideally room temperature or warm tea. But if you drink a bunch of water during a meal, that will actually, especially cold water,
Ice water,
that will actually dilute your digestive enzymes and slow the whole digestive process, and maybe even create some like gas and bloating and churning and discomfort. When I go to a restaurant, when we both go to a restaurant, we get hot water with lemon. They bring us ice water. We're like, don't even set it down, give it to someone else. It makes a huge difference. And lastly, take a walk after meals. Even if it's just around the block, it'll really help keep your, like, get your digestion moving, and it'll also make it so you're not as tired. Like if you're having lunch during your workday and you eat a bunch of food and then you stay sitting, you're probably going to feel pretty tired. It's going to be hard to focus. But if you get up, take like a 10-minute, even a 5-minute walk, you're going to be able to digest more effectively and feel more alert throughout your day.
Yeah. If you can start to integrate just some of these things, make these small shifts, even just a few of them, you're really going to start to notice a difference and be like, oh, wow, what have I been doing this whole time? And yeah, they're small shifts actually, but they will make such a profound difference for you. So definitely do them.
Do them. And now we're going to talk a little more specifically about Ayurvedic nutrition. And some of the keys to really fueling your fire, to keeping your digestive fire strong and robust so that it can turn your food into nutrients and into energy and into just your thriving existence, would be to cook and spice your food. Both of those things add a component of heat to your food, which basically pre-digests it and makes it so your body doesn't have to work as hard, which is key to prevent gas and bloating and acidity. Is just really anything that we can do to support our body to unlock nutrients and digest effectively is what we have to do to thrive. So cooking and spicing your food will really support digestion and everything else as a result.
Yeah. And you know, this thing about unlocking nutrients, while it's true that raw food, there's a lot of nutrients in there, they're not necessarily bioavailable. So when you cook it, you're actually pre-digesting and unlocking those nutrients, and it makes a world of difference. We can't tell you how many clients we see are eating salads and raw food.
They've been bloated for years
and don't even realize that it's,
and they're like, why I eat so healthy, I eat so many vegetables, and it's too many raw vegetables. And especially if your digestive fire is like a little low, which for a lot of people it is, then it's really gonna take a lot of energy for your body to fully access and unlock the nutrients that could be available within that broccoli, versus if you cook it, you're going to do your body a favor so that it can just get the nutrients more readily.
Yes.
So it's not that raw broccoli doesn't have a bunch of nutrients. It's that your body probably isn't getting them.
Yep.
Cook your food. Add some spices.
We feel strongly about this.
We do.
Okay, so another thing that Ayurveda feels strongly about and really emphasizes is food combining. And that is the intelligent selection of foods that you're pairing together within each meal, because this is another way you can support digestion by sort of pairing together foods that are similar enough and not like really, really opposite qualities. Because if you put foods that have really, really opposite qualities in your body at the same time, or like a bunch of really heavy proteins, so for example, a bunch of heavy proteins with a bunch of fruit that's sort of like light, the two things are going to digest at different rates. They require different enzymes to break them down, and your body, it's too much for your body to handle, and it ends up sort of like almost fermenting in your body and creating toxins. And so yeah, this is another way to imbalance Agni. So you want to keep thinking about what the foods that you're putting together in each meal. And so a meal that consists of about 50% cooked vegetables with Ayurvedic spices and fresh herbs, in addition to 1 to 2 proteins like mung beans and maybe a small amount of yogurt, and about 25% grains such as rice or quinoa is an example of really great food combining. So just what you can see in this photo here would feel like you would feel really good after you eat this meal. And this is really something that also is a bit contrary to what you see in like a paleo diet or something like that, where they're loading on a bunch of really similar proteins and maybe even adding fruits in there. And
honestly, it stresses me out.
Yeah, it's really hard for your body to
so
process.
hard for your body, and you're really just not accessing all of those nutrients, and you're probably going to feel tired after eating a meal like that. Yeah. So it's a whole thing. So Sierra mentioned an example of good food combining 50% vegetables, 25% protein, 25% grain, all of it ideally cooked and spiced. That's ideal. Just aim for that generally. And then examples of poor food combining that are pretty common would be mixing fruit with other foods. Fruit digests really quickly. Everything else digests a lot slower than fruit, especially dairy, and that those different rates of digestion don't do well in our bodies. It can cause the dairy to curdle. It can cause the fruit to only get partially digested. So ideally, you can eat raw fruit if you want. Ideally, eat it in between meals rather than during, or cook fruit if you want to eat it with a meal, because that changes the qualities, makes it more digestible. Another tricky thing in food combining is not having too many proteins in one meal, because it's just too heavy and dense for your body, for your Agni to have the energy to break it all down. And so it just won't. So the ideally like 2 to 3 proteins max. So rather than having like a salad that has
eggs and nuts
and seeds and cheese, it's too much. 2 to 3 proteins, keep it simple, and your body will get a lot more effective energy out of that than doing a bunch of things. Raw salads, as we sort of alluded to earlier, are really difficult to digest. Raw food in general just has the complete opposite qualities of digestive fire. So it will dampen your digestive fire. It will lead to churning in the stomach to try and get to the nutrients at the core of all that raw food. And that can cause a lot of digestive discomforts. And also raw salads end up often combining too many proteins or having fruit. They sort of break the other food combining rules. So if you are going to have a little raw salad, keep it really simple and keep it about 10% of your meal. So like a little arugula with olive oil on the side of a meal is great. It's just that you don't want to combine a bunch of things, and you don't want to have too much. Smoothies are another one that sort of seem contrary to health trends, but it's similar in that they're not actually that bioavailable when you're giving yourself so much dense food and fruit and dairy and all of these things that your body's trying to understand, your digestive fire is trying to understand how to break down at the same time. It just doesn't work. And some people say, well, it keeps me so full. It's not actually satiating you. It's not actually turning into nutrients and energy. What happened was that smoothie was so heavy and cold and damp, it just squashed your digestive fire. I'm so sorry to break this to you. I don't know if I delivered that soft enough. Honestly, I know that it's hard to hear. If you are a smoothie lover, try to keep it really simple, either like only fruit in your smoothie or only vegetables. Try to keep it to like 3 items, have it at room temperature, but just keep that in mind. Simplify.
Yeah. And if this feels a little overwhelming, just remember that there's so much that you can eat in Ayurveda. It's like really about, just think about warm foods and cooked foods and lots of vegetables. Like it's just, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Not that bad. And we're just going to talk a little bit about exercise for each of the doshas, different ways to move your body. So vatas are really going to seek out exercise to ground excess energy. And the exercises that are best for vata type people are like gentle to moderate hiking, bouldering, swimming is really great, stand-up paddleboarding, dance, bar, gardening, and restorative yoga are really grounding and great for Vata dosha. Pitta usually likes to exercise as an outlet for drive and achievement. That's usually what motivates them. And activities that are going to be best for Pitta type people that are more on the slow and cooling side are going to be moderate hiking, swimming, weightlifting, yin yoga, Pilates, rock climbing, mountain biking, and winter sports. And Kapha generally seeks out exercise because it helps lift energy. And the best exercises for a Kapha type person would be more vigorous hiking, jogging, cycling, aerobics, cardio dance like Zumba, kickboxing, a stronger vinyasa, or even hot yoga. And you can start to think like, which of those activities am I drawn to? What do I actually want to do versus what is best for my body? Sort of, I think sometimes Pitta type people really think they want to do hot yoga. And I'm like, you just don't have to be in a hot room.
You'll just be angry when you leave.
So just keep that in mind, like really listen to what type of movement sounds good to you, because it's probably what your body needs. You don't have to tell yourself that you have to do hot yoga if it sounds too hot for you. That's all. Unless you're a kapha, maybe it's good for you. Think about it.
Yeah. So now we're going to just bring it all together really quick and talk about daily routine. And this is another one of the really, really powerful tools that Ayurveda brings to the table. It's called in Sanskrit Richacharya. Actually, Dinacharya.
That's true. Richacharya is
seasonal routines. Dinacharya is the daily routine. And it's really, again, it's this idea of aligning ourselves with the rhythms and elements of nature and doing as nature does, waking up with the sun, going to bed with the sun. A little harder in the winter in this part of the world, but it's doing things in accordance with the time of day and doing things at the same time every day so that your body knows what to expect and really getting into a rhythm that is also it's a very Vata soothing activity actually to just, or lifestyle I should say, to ground down and just know what you do at each part of each day. It's way more powerful of a healing tool than you can even imagine.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And it really is the opportunity to bring together some of the things that we've already talked about. And we might sprinkle a couple of things in here. We're going to give you some ideas for things that you can do as part of your daily routine.
And we have whole appointments with clients about building an Ayurvedic lifestyle through daily routine, because it really is that important. It is like one of the pillars of Ayurveda, and it makes such a difference. It's so fun. It makes your life feel so nice.
Good. It'll feel so good.
Okay, so here's some things to try. In the morning, it's ideal to wake up just before or with the sun. You'll actually notice you have more energy to get yourself up and out as the sun is rising versus once it's already risen. Scrape your tongue. If you don't have a tongue scraper, go get one tomorrow. You need it. It'll increase your quality of life. It will make your food taste better. It's a way to like check in with if it's coated, it means there's toxins in your body, which
get them out.
We'll tell you ways to, we have some ideas about that. And then after you scrape your tongue, drink some warm lemon honey water. That'll hydrate you. It'll activate digestion. It'll help you have a bowel movement. Really nice. Do a little exercise or stretching in the morning. And then, is this still me? Yep. Take a walk after lunch, which we already mentioned. That's going to really help your digestion and your sort of energy levels in the afternoon. Practice mindfulness or meditation or journaling or read a book before dinner, just some like mindfulness grounding before dinner. Turn off electronics by 9 p.m. That blue light from screens is really activating, so it'll help you wind down. And go to bed by 10 p.m. You'll fall asleep so much easier if you are in bed by 10 p.m. than 11. Promise.
Also practice legs up the wall. It's one of our favorite tricks for grounding Vata and helping us sleep really easily. And yes, April's asking, will these tips be made available? And they are either in a blog or we're actually going to tell you up next about something that we've created to make all of this really, really available to you. But it is mind-blowing the wisdom that Ayurveda offers to us and to our lives. And as you can imagine, we have barely scratched the surface in this just 1 hour.
There's so much more that we want to tell you about, like I said, like tongue scraping. Why do we tongue scrape? Because there's toxins in your body probably, and we want to talk to you about how to prevent them and what you can do. And there's so much, and an hour is just too hard to do it all. We got through a lot though, so thanks for being here.
Yeah, really. Hopefully you guys have left with some really, really powerful tips, but the reality is, so Molly and I studied for 2 years full time to glean this wisdom so that we could share it with you. And
because it changed our own lives.
And one of our biggest passions is making this wisdom accessible to the world and anyone wherever you are in the world. So we want to share with you this course that we wrote, we spent about a year of our lives writing this 3-part online program. It is a full participatory wellness experience that we really want to invite you to consider taking on in your own life. And we would be there to support you through.
Especially if you're like feeling this motivation and curiosity and excitement about Ayurveda, there is so much to learn. And there's no better time than now to start bringing these practices in your life, because Ayurveda will really help you live longer, and live better and have better skin and be nicer to your family. I mean, honestly.
And show up to do your life's work and your purpose in the world.
So
and also,
if you're excited, like just listen.
Yeah. It also, as we mentioned, it provides this lens through which you'll start to see the world, and you'll start to be able to discern what's great for you and what's maybe great for your friend who has a completely different constitution from you, and be able to see the world through this really, really empowering lens. Like, we're all about putting the healing tools back in the hands of the people. That's you. That's us. But this course is really intended to walk you through that. So we would go deeper into the doshas, we would go deeper into Agni and how to prevent toxic buildup in your body so that you're preventing disease.
We give like recipes and remedies and rituals, like all of it, and tons of guides and checklists and things to really help you establish your own Ayurvedic lifestyle, and in a way that works for you. We're not going to tell you to like do all this crazy stuff that you just can't do if you like have a 9 to 5 and a family. We're going to give you things that you can sort of hand pick to what feels best for you and what actually works in your life.
Small, sustainable shifts. And our like brand, you could say, of Ayurveda is really about non-fanaticism. So it's not about
no shortage of enthusiasm, but
true. But it's about not, completely cutting yourself off from the things that you love.
Not depriving yourself. Yeah. We don't want you to deprive yourself. We don't want you to hate your body. We want you to form a relationship with yourself that feels true to you and balancing and nourishing. You should feel nourished.
Yeah. So in the course, it's really about self-love, improving your digestion, sustaining your energy, enhancing your mood, and preventing disease for the long term. So dang. So here's more about what's included. It's 18 dynamic modules. There's a private Facebook group that we're in there engaging in. As Molly mentioned, lots of downloadable recipes, remedies, guides, just a lot of really effective tools, tools for you making small shifts that really will help your body function optimally and heal itself. And then you do get a certificate of completion in the art of Ayurveda. And once you're enrolled, you get lifetime access and you can work through it at your own pace. And what we're really excited to share with you is, because you have been here and participated in this webinar, we want to offer you $50 off, which actually we used to sell this course for a lot more, but one of our biggest values is in making Ayurveda accessible.
I mean, this is a $500 course. There is so much in it. It is so in-depth and accessible and comprehensive and fun and interesting. And we just had this moment where like, we need more people to be able to access this and to be able to afford this. We brought the price down a lot, and that felt really, really aligned with our own values. And now we're bringing it down just a little bit more today for you, if now's your time.
So to access the course, we will send out an email if you're here live. And if you're not, you go to learn.cultivatebalance.com and you'll find the Art of Ayurveda there. And if you use the coupon code THRIVE within the next 48 hours, you will get $50 off. So we're so excited to share it with you. And we are so grateful that you took time out of your life to be here for 1 hour.
And we hope to continue to connect. So please be on the lookout for future webinars and workshops. If you're local, we have, a skincare protocol. We have a lot of things that we're doing and evolving, and we really want to connect and find ways to continue to support you and answer your questions. And so if there are things you want to learn more about too, like tell us, because we're really cultivating many tools and they're for you.
We want to give you what you want. So reach out. We're here for it.
And take the mind body quiz. And thank you so much. See you next time.
Yeah. Bye, babes.